Well, hello, everybody. How are we doing out there? And what is it? The internet verse. I'm Matthew here with ClientCircle. Tracy, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy. I'm with Angela Adams Consulting, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, look at the digital versions of ourselves. Man, I'm looking fly in that. I might go like full time into the metaverse after seeing myself in avatar form.
I know I've been a big fan of the AI headshots as well, so this is fun.
Oh, I've not tried those out. I've seen them. Do they actually work pretty well?
They're hilarious, actually. My marketing cohort and we did them because we needed new headshots, and for $30, I got like 150 different versions of myself. And out of them, like 3 or 4 of them are really good, but the best part was the hand shots. Like anything with hands in it was hilarious because they were missing fingers or turned in weird directions. It was really entertaining, actually. It was a $30 well spent.
I actually have a buddy who's a hand model for like Modelo and like McDonald's and things like that. But that's a whole other
Nice.
story. Yes. Well, let's get it back on track before I lose the thread here. So today we got a lot of stuff we're going to go over. You can kind of see on the screen here. We're going to talk a little bit about the importance of the end of the year and why that really matters. Some things that you're going to want to do they have spring cleaning. This is more of like a winter cleaning, I guess, if you will. We're going to be talking a little bit about renewal notifications, year-end coverage reviews, proactive management, risk management strategies, cross-selling, holiday magic, all kinds of stuff, and just getting geared up so we can kind of round the curve and exit into 2024 with a bang here. So let's go ahead and dive on into it, and let's start here. And Tracy, I'll let you kind of kick it off here.
Okay. So, can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're great.
Okay, and my microphone stopped working. So I started talking with you guys when our company started doing more consultative services with agencies as it relates to helping them promote their business and you know help their customer experience. And we started talking about topics that we could do a joint presentation on. And there's a lot of um, opportunity this time of year to refocus on how you're engaging with your clients. And there's been a lot of studies that when you are sending out messages this time of year, you can find anywhere from a 10 to 20% increase in click-through rates. So that's people clicking on your messages and actually engaging with them. And in general, this time of year, people are more receptive to doing things like a policy review so they can explore their options, make sure that they've got the right coverages heading into the holiday season or even afterwards with the new year into tax season. So this is a really great time of year to refocus on client engagement, not just because of those statistics, but also just because of current events and what's happening around us.
Yeah, for sure. Whoops, I kind of switched I think I might have misclicked on that. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. Like historically, we've done a lot of testing over the years on different types of campaigns, right? One of the interesting things that we've seen over the last decade is the combination of digital with kind of analog communications. So a lot of you who've known us and been in the industry remember some of our like handwritten cards, right? So a long time ago, we started to test how well people responded to digital emails, digital communication like emails, if they got old school touch point, like a card in the mail, first of all. And what we found was that clients would get almost a 30% higher response rate if they had gotten the warm touch within like a 24 to 48 hour window before they got the digital request, right? So one thing that you'll see is with already high response rates in the month of November, December, people are at home, they may be taking some time off, they've got some time to decompress and kind of do some of their own planning activities. If you marry those types of requests to schedule meetings and things like that with a warm touch. Like a lot of people do this time of year, doing like Thanksgiving cards or doing like, Christmas cards or other holiday cards, right? You might even be able to boost those numbers even higher. I always get a kick out of seeing some of the things that people do creatively with cards. I had one woman that told us that she had a world famous pumpkin pie recipe that her mother did. And what we did was, you see these cards, how they're kind of like a stationary style. Well, the backs were fully editable. So what she did was she uploaded an image on the back of her mother's world famous pumpkin pie recipe so that people could just tear the card in two and put that inside of their recipe, like file folder kind of thing, And I thought that was kind of a cute way of using a warm touch combined with something. But again, those things can actually help your digital communication go up as well. So
another way that we really think communication should be focused right now, this time of year, is leveraging these automation tools like Vertafore Client Connect in conjunction with your renewal strategy. Automating those proactive touch points via email or text, using the automation to solicit information that you might need in advance of those renewals. So creating forms on your website and texting those out to get information so that you have the information to prepare for renewal in advance and do the reshopping that might be necessary, as it is in a lot of cases right now. You can also kind of prime them for those discussions with sharing information about, the industry right now in the market and pricing, giving them information about other coverages that they might need to be aware of, especially right now with a lot of emphasis on the flooding in the Southeast. You could be giving them more information about whether or not flood insurance might be a good thing for them to consider at the point of renewal, or increased umbrella coverages for, if they have a homeowner's insurance policy. So doing a lot of proactive communication around renewals helps support that successful renewal and increase retention.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm one of those people who I'm a visual as well as an auditory learner here. So sometimes it helps me to be able to see things. So I'm going to actually share some stuff with you while we're going here, and then we can go back to the slides. So when it comes to a renewal campaign or different types of renewal campaigns, every agency that we work with kind of has a different strategy based upon what's the most important to them, right? Some agencies are in really hard markets out in like California, right? And there's not a lot of appetite, not a lot of carriers out there. So what they're trying to do is focus on expanding their existing book of businesses, rounding out accounts at renewals, or cross-selling other products at renewals, like you were talking about, right? And so what you want to do in order to kind of be effective at that is you're going to notice up at the top here when you're logged in to ClientCircle or Vertafore Client Communications, either one, they're both kind of powered by our software. You'll see there's a contacts list, and these contacts are ultimately like marketing audiences, marketing lists. And the reason you want a marketing list is because you need to communicate differently with different types of your book of business, depending on the types of coverages you have. You want it to be relevant, and you always want communication to feel very tailored. You don't want it just to feel one size fits all, like you're blasting or dripping on people. It should feel like somebody at the agency knew something about you as a customer and sent you something personally that was meant for you, right? So a marketing list is the way that you can make sure that that is tailored. So you'll notice on some of these are like, here's a personal lines list. Here's ones that are showing you all your home, no auto clients. Here's a personal lines list with life insurance. Some of the carriers that we work with, like your Erie Insurances of the world, they really like their agents to be focused on life insurance as well. And there's other carriers that have appetite for that. Or a big one that we see a lot of agencies coming to us with is, how do we reduce the amount of service work that we're doing as an agency so that we can have our people focus on the people stuff and have technology supporting with those mundane but necessary tasks? So ultimately, the way that you kind of do this in ClientCircle has been really simplified. You just kind of go over to the communications tab over here. And on this tab, we have a library of ready to go automations. So these are kind of pre-populated campaigns where a lot of that logic that if they have a home policy, but they don't have an auto policy, all that has been done for you. So all you really have to do is select from the library. And whenever you select from that library, one of these marketing lists get built. But what's also kind of cool about that library is that it has preset emails and different and text messages and campaigns and things like that that are ready to go. So you'll see it right here where it says ready to go. Now, a couple of strategies that we're seeing work really well is like on the renewal side of things. Some of the agencies will do is once they have a list built, let's say they wanted to send out a commercial, a personal lines renewal campaign, one at the 60-day mark, and then another once the download had come through, at 30 days or 14 days, right? So you can schedule a first email that goes out, just kind of a general proactive email about things that are happening in the industry. So it might be something like, hey, Roger, hey, Susan, just wanted to reach out with you to let you know you do have an upcoming policy coming through for renewal with Nationwide or Progressive or whoever it might be. We're going to be taking a look into it. Things are happening in the industry. We wanted to let you know we'll be back in touch. And then you could have a second email that comes up around the 30-day mark to let them know, hey, we got your renewal information in. It looks good. Here's where it's renewing at this date and time. And what we're suggesting right now is that we think you got the best coverage available for you. We are suggesting that you stay put. So even if you don't reshop it, what we have found statistically is that when you're proactive with these renewal processes, as opposed to just trying to stick your head in the sand and like an ostrich and hoping the storm blows over, but when you're proactive, you end up having higher retention numbers. Agencies that are not proactive are you're seeing a lot of agent of record changes where they're going and looking for other agents that can actually answer the questions. Because human beings, we can deal with a lot of things, but we need to know why, right? So if you're that agency who is automating the answers to the why questions ahead of renewals, you're going to see a lot higher retention rates with those people. But then there's also some other kind of campaigns in here that you can select, those auto no home campaigns, or maybe it's a good chance to spot people who are missing cyber liability or umbrella coverages and activate those. So we're really seeing some pretty cool results as a result of these things. You can kind of go see on the screen here, this agency, with a 4 monoline cross-selling emails, they picked up another $186,000 in premium. This agency down here wrote an additional $62,000 in commercial lines through a couple of cross-selling emails in here as well. So you can still grow from within by rounding and cross-selling, even if you're in a challenging, hard market is the net of that. I know I did a lot of talking there, but hopefully that will help you visual learners like me wrap your head around things.
And another thing too is, we've talked a lot about renewal and cross-sell, but we also have, a lot of policies that don't necessarily renew this time of year. And our approach is that regardless of renewal, you should still be doing some sort of coverage reviews. So take the time, this time of year to do year-end coverage reviews. Schedule time, especially with your VIP clients or your big commercialized clients, to do a book of business review or a household coverage review and assess the risk and do the cross-selling at that point. To Matthew's point, with being proactive, doing these types of reviews just reinforces that relationship, but also it's much more comforting to know what's coming rather than for your policies to just renew and then be like, oh my goodness, and then they get that sticker shock versus having the opportunity to be prepared. You can also use this time of year to go in and look at your NPS scores and your Google reviews and tackle some of the ones that aren't big supporters of your agency. Do some warm touches have some of your account managers making phone calls and reaching out and talking to people about their experience, and try to turn some of those around and make them promoters of your agency. I think this is a great time of year to kind of dig into some of the analytics that ClientCircle has available and leverage that. I don't know if you wanted to show that at all, Matthew.
Yeah, for sure. So there's so many things that kind of spark there with as you're going through those. So let's start on the first one. Like, a lot of agencies aren't really thinking about how their website could be more than just a business card online that looks pretty, right? You need to start thinking about how, as an agency in 2025, that we're going to get a little bit more efficient than we were before. How do we consolidate some of our technology stack? And how do we ultimately do more with less in a challenging market? So one of the things that I want you to think about is, when you're talking about scheduling links for people to book, assessments. So there's you could put a link in a renewal email that offers a time to schedule a time with you. Some of you use tools like Calendly. Some of you have calendar features embedded into your website. So when you send that renewal email, if you're an agency that kind of actively reshops certain types of clients, right? So one of the things, if you remember when I was showing you that list where it showed you the clients who had a 50% rate increase or more, right? So you might have different renewal paths. One is kind of everybody under a 50% rate increase, or whatever you consider dramatic in your market, because it's different for everybody, right? If they're under that threshold, you might be sending a general renewal email, not spending a lot of internal resources to try to reshop those people, but you still want to be proactive. But if they're over a certain threshold, you might want to send a different email where you're actually offering to do this kind of assessment or risk analysis with them and spend a little more time. Or, to your point, Tracy, if they're a VIP, you might have just a VIP marketing list on that contact screen, right? And that could be based upon like premium threshold or a profile question or some kind of determining feature how you rank your VIPs. But for those people, put a hyperlink in there, put a link to your calendar where they can actually schedule a time with you. And you can also have things like forms on your website. So you could have policy review questionnaires where you're asking people, hey, have you moved? Have you had any drivers? Did you put any additions on your house that I should know about? Whatever your kind of questions are, those are not only useful to show that you're being proactive with the client, but they're great at spotting opportunities. So we have the ability to connect forms that are out on your website to ClientCircle so that you're pulling in that information. And then as you're doing that, we can actually give you like a spreadsheet that you can download, that you can see all the answers that are coming in as those forms are getting filled out. So that's how you turn your website into more of a part of a tool that's supporting your efforts and getting you more consistent. So even if you're busy at work and can't answer the phone, the form can actually respond for you. And what I mean by having a form respond for you is that there's these cool things inside of ClientCircle that are called journeys, which is like a workflow ultimately. And did you know that you can connect your ClientCircle account to like your phone system? So if you're a RingCentral or a Bridge or a Lightspeed voice user, we have an integration. Even if you have like a local voice over IP system for your office number locally, we can send a request to port that number over and get it registered so you can text from your local office number. But once we have access to that kind of infrastructure, that phone system, as well as your email and being able to send cards, you can set up your forms to respond for you when you're busy. So that means someone fills out a form, you can immediately then text them to acknowledgement that you've got their form and that someone will be getting back with them. You can send an email follow-up for anybody who fills out that type of form, kind of letting them know what will come next now that they filled it out. You could even send a thank you card if you wanted to someone out. But that's how you start to get more systems in place. So agencies that are really good at systems can get by with only having a small staff. agencies with poor systems end up throwing a body at the problem. They end up hiring more people to take care of what the lack of the system. Now, the other thing that we were talking about was kind of analytics and dashboards. So just as a quick review, a lot of you know about NPS surveys, but a lot of you don't necessarily know what that means to the bottom line and why you should be spending time reviewing this. I want to point out this little quick case study here, because this really highlights why this is important to spend time in reviewing it. So Net Promoter Survey, just like it sounds, it's the net number of promoters that your book of business has in it, right? So a healthy book of business has a lot of clients who are promoters. An unhealthy one doesn't have a lot, and it ends up having a lot of detractors. This agency came to us in 2022, and they were able to boost their Net Promoter Survey score by 12 points. Now, what that means is every 5 to 10 points that your NPS score goes up as an agency, you see about a 1% to 2% spike in retention correlating to that number, right? So the way that you are improving your Net Promoter Score is by improving customer experience, right? Partly by being more proactive and sending more emails and cards and educational content and things like that. But secondly, is really kind of starting to look at the trends. Like, look at what your clients are saying. This dashboard here will say, okay, we had one detractor who took a survey who said that we lack knowledge on a certain topic. We need to dig in and understand that comment. Or all of our promoters, a lot of them seem to be mentioning our service or support. So if you want to kind of dig into this, not only will the dashboard digest the surveys and show you what everything means, but on your surveys tab here, you'll also be able to go down and see every response that you've received over the last year, along with the comments, and read those things. You'll be able to learn, like in this case, Bob and Michelle are doing great. So that's some good stuff to bring up in a team meeting, right? Or at the holiday party. Hey, I just want to let you know, I've been paying, as an owner, you're talking to Bob and Michelle, and you're like, I want to let you know I've been paying attention to what our customers have been saying. It's meant a lot that you take care of people. And so you ride your winners, but meanwhile, you go down and read some of, like, if you read some detractors on here and you don't have some good ones, and they say, no one gets back to me on phone calls or emails, you realize in 2025, we've got to improve our response time. So that's kind of getting into what you were talking about, Tracy, about specifics on what you need to be looking at on that. Is that kind of what you were envisioning too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like if retention is such a big deal right now, and if you're using the NPS surveying, you're going to get people basically telling you, like, hey, I might leave. Those are going to be those kind of middle of the road people, the detractors. And if you get the opportunity to get ahead of that, it can increase your retention. And then even further than that, if you're trying to grow and get more referral business and just get your name out there, when you're getting these positive surveys and you're sending them to Google to leave a review, that's increasing the likelihood that other people are going to find your agency too. So it's helping in a whole nother area of SEO. So it's a relatively easy thing to do to get a lot back in return. And it doesn't take a lot of time. And then on kind of going back to the use of your website and going back to your tech stack discussion, I think the integration of forms, some kind of form tool, and sending out links and booking links is so time saving for both account managers and production teams. We've used it in our own company, and we've doubled in size. More than doubled in size in the last several years. So it's definitely something that I can speak from personal experience that it's been instrumental in changing how we operate, but I've seen it have a huge positive effect on agencies as well. Moving. Oh,
I was just going to say, before we switch to that, one other thing that I wanted to kind of add, just as something that we see people using, is if your book of business is aging, out a little bit, and part of what you're wanting to do is attract a younger audience, you really need to think about the experience of younger people. Like, they didn't grow up with emails. They didn't, like, a lot of them grew up just texting or direct messaging and things like that.
Mhm.
So think about texting as a way to open new channels of communication, and to add that as part of that renewal scheduling process. So we've all been to like a dentist or a chiropractor or something where you go to schedule an appointment and they send you like a text reminder. There's no reason why you can't send out that complimentary annual household review via email first, but then also schedule a text message reminder to that client 2 days later that says, "Hey, Jill, I sent you yesterday, 2 days ago, I sent you a request to schedule a time. If you might want to check your email, or you can use this link here," right? So for busy contractors on commercial lines or busy households that you want to kind of give, my dad would call it a belt and suspenders approach to things, you can use both channels. And what you'll find is that you'll get more responsive, more happy clients as a result of being considerate of the various channels that people prefer.
So another thing that we have kind of touched on already, but goes without saying, it's important this time of year to use this opportunity to communicate with your clients, to look for additional cross-sell opportunities. Matthew was showing earlier how you can segment clients and enroll them into various campaigns based on, different coverages you recommend. And he mentioned journeys, and I don't think he actually showed it, so I was going to ask him to show it again, because that's one of the features that I really love. I know it's not part of the Vertafore Communications client package, but I think it's well worth the additional cost, because it gives you this like really great, I'm a visual person too, so I like to see like, what does this look like when I'm communicating with this particular segment of clients? What's the flow going to be? And I think the journeys module within ClientCircle gives you that really easy to understand visual, and allows you to create really cool onboarding campaigns for different subsets of clients, really great cross-selling campaigns for different clients. And even, the opportunity to leverage those promoters that we talked about earlier and ask them for referrals, or send them thank you notes for logging a Google testimonial. So I think there's lots of opportunity with Vertafore client communications in general, with some of the ready to go stuff, and the way it's integrated with their management system, and you can segment those clients, but even more so with the journeys. And we also mentioned too, take advantage of the things that are going on around us that are real life scenarios, and infusing not just, hey, buy more insurance, but use it as an opportunity to have conversations that are relevant to them and their life, or maybe where they're at geographically. And then there's this extra bonus that we added on here too, about updating your data, making sure that it's nice and clean. If you're going to be using some of these automations, it is going to be pulling from the data that you have in your management system, or that you have in these contact records. So making sure that you have contact names entered correctly. If you're using nicknames, that they're in there correctly, and it's not, prefers to go by Jeff. You've got the actual name that you would call them in an email or a card. So I didn't know if you wanted to give them a quick sneak peek at the journeys.
For sure. So there's all kinds of, so a journey ultimately is a way, to your point, Tracy, to do two things. It's one, it's going to help you get visibility to who you have that are in a certain process at a certain given point of time. So you might be using journeys to be able to see your 60, 90, 30-day renewals, and to see everybody who are in those different stages, because you just want to get some visibility into all the people that you're managing in those stages. This is actually a cross-sell, auto cross-sell journey. So if they have a home, no auto, you can actually, as soon as somebody meets the criteria, So when we're pulling the data through the integration with AMS 360, we'll be able to spot that they have this type of policy home, but they're lacking this other type of policy auto. So when that happens, you can add, that person can add to a journey, and then you can have an email that goes out to them to let them know, hey, listen, there's some benefits of bundling it. You can link them to a form on your website. They can fill out the information about their vehicles. And then when that happens, so these are different, a journey can have different steps that happen in each stage, right? So you add them to the journey, they get an email, it sends them to a form on your website, and then it sends them a thank you once they filled out the form, and then that moves them into the next stage. And that stage can be a manual stage, or it can be an automated stage, right? So in this case, we're working on putting together their quote. They're going to be into that stage until we're done with it. So this is a manual stage. And then you can put that person into the finalized stage, and you can have follow-up communication that goes out to that person after they're in that stage until they're actually quote, until they actually bind that policy. Now, journeys also can be used for, there's all kinds of different things. Some people use them for tracking their claims, just kind of manually seeing people who are in the claims process. Some people like journeys a lot for doing things like tracking. When I was showing you these website quote forms, you know, the leads that were coming in through the quote forms, anytime someone fills out a quote form on your website, you can drop them into a journey. And then, as I mentioned, once they hit the first stage, text message them, send them an email, notify an employee on the team that a new lead has come in. So you can kind of combine a journey with your website with a journey, right? To dump those leads in there and kind of allow you to follow up with them. And then that also gets down to the analytics again that we were talking about just on the previous slide, where you can actually see your sales numbers, you know, and how well your close rates are, and some basic information about quotes by team member, time to close, some information of those nature. To the other point, you know, you can also use a journey to kind of map out a custom process, an onboarding process for new customers. So typically we have a very easy to use onboarding process that most of our agencies just turn on the buttons and the automated welcome emails and the welcome card and the thank you note and the survey and the Google reviews and things like that just happen. So that kind of simplified onboarding process is over here under your communications tab, and you can just turn on the switch. However, some agencies like to modify their onboarding process. They might want to map out the entire first year of a new client, where they're able to not only have the welcome emails and the onboarding in the first 30 days, they might want to reach out at 60 days from a life insurance specialist who is going to talk to them about getting a term life policy, you know, as mortgage protection. They might want to have a midterm check-in to talk about, you know, flood insurance if they're in a coastal state, or cyber liability if it's a commercial lines client. So those journeys are ultimately allow you to have a little bit more customization to that new customer onboarding process, where you can even enroll people in auto pay. You can get them to download an app or take them to your customer service centers to try to make your clients a little bit more self-reliant. And you can see people going through these stages over the course of the first year. So that's kind of how journeys kind of fit into that. But back to your point as well about talking about data, like, you know, this is software, right? So it's, you know, they say garbage in, garbage out, but the same is opposite is also true. If you put good ingredients in, if you put good, clean data in, then you're going to get great results out. So if you do happen to have just a little bit of extra bandwidth toward the end of the year, to your point, nicknames so that the emails are personalized. We do a lot of data cleanup efforts for you that you can find inside a ClientCircle. One of the things that you'll see is we have a really good deduping process where we're scanning all of your accounts inside of AMS 360, and we're looking for potential duplicates. So on that same contacts screen that I was showing you where all the lists are, you'll notice that there's this one that says duplicates here. So if two accounts share the same name or address or email, we'll find them and we'll bring them to your attention and we'll ask you, do you want to consolidate these accounts so you don't send out 4 emails to someone? That sometimes feels like a real bonehead maneuver, like real record scratch moment, right? We want to avoid those kind of things. So let's consolidate those where it's necessary, but we'll also check your mailing addresses with the U.S. Postal Service's database and validate your mailing addresses. If any emails aren't going through, we can find those and kind of create like a list of all your errors. And you can even use our list building tool to set up alerts. So if you wanted to build a list that said clients without email and then send up an employee reminder 90, 120 days before renewal so that your employees get notified if there's bad emails that you can't reach clients at renewal, this is the time of year to focus on that kind of stuff. Do that cleanup, update your clients' email addresses, even, and you're going to see your performance dramatically increase next year as a result of some of this winter cleanup that you're doing.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this a little bit too, nurturing these relationships without necessarily selling. And we've talked about briefly a few of those things, but some of the things that we see a lot of clients wanting to do right now is doing like messaging on common year-end risks, things that are like weather related, with winter storms coming, seasonal things. After Christmas, we see clients that do, cute little promotions like, did you get something new for Christmas? Make sure it's covered. And I love how you can segment your clients and message them about things that are specific to, what they care about. We have some clients that we work with that are really into classic cars. So you can have a subset of clients that have that type of coverage that you're talking to about things that they're passionate about. A lot of agencies, have specific niche markets that they service. And there's so much information out there besides insurance that's fun to talk about. We talk about insurance a lot because that's the industry that we work in, but around us, that's not what they're into every day. So switching up what you're talking about, so it's not always just about like, oh, do you have this coverage? What if this happens? Are you ready? Talk about things that are interesting to your target audience that they will find interesting, will also help nurture that relationship without necessarily selling, but they're hearing from you, they're associating something positive with you, and that means that they're building that relationship with you over time. And I know that there's lots of ways that you can use ClientCircle to have these conversations. There's lots of pre-built content that you can access and use without having to kind of come up with it on your own.
Yeah, I love it. So we've all been on the receiving end of bad marketing, right? Or bad efforts to communicate. And we know how that feels. So let's not do that. And some of the ways to not do that is we've already talked about one of the ways, which is create segmented lists so that stuff is not going to clients where it's not appropriate to them. The second thing is exactly what Tracy said. It's okay to not talk about insurance all the time, right? Some of the reason that people are doing business with you is because they like you, right? And because they find birds of a feather flock together. What you find interesting is possibly what your clients find interesting, right? And you can build communities around shared interests. And then those people who are engaging with you will also lead to clients in the long term, right? So what I mean by this is to blend your communication where sometimes it's about insurance and other times it's about other topics, right? So I know some agents out there that are really good, like barbecue masters, right? Or classic car enthusiasts, to your point, or they love the outdoors. Some of you have niche markets where you service like outdoor clients and things like that. So here's what we've done to help it not feel so canned. we built this tool that's called Client Connect. And this is one of those perfect like winter activities, because not as many clients use this tool as I would love to see them using. Because all you need to do is select like a handful, let's say 5 or 6 articles for the next year, and we'll take care of the rest for you. We even provide like a content library where you can get in here and browse from different libraries. Some of it's about home ownership, some of it's about businesses, auto coverage, whatever. Or a lot of you actually have content that you've made in the past where you've written blog posts that are on your website, or you've shot a video and you paid money to do this and have it edited, but nobody's really watching it because you don't have a good way to circulate the content. So whether you're checking out stuff from our library or putting links to stuff that you've already made into here, the way that Client Connect works is kind of like a sprinkler system that comes online only when there's been a drought outside, right? So it will pay attention to all the other types of campaigns that you have going on throughout the year, and it will fill in the gaps with content that you've selected during these winter months, right? So let's say you have 4 or 5 articles and you can kind of put them on the appropriate marketing list. So this is a personal lines only list. This is a commercial lines only list. This is a monoline only list, right? So you can select them. And then if Tracy has gone 30, 40 days and she hasn't had a survey or a renewal check-in or a birthday card or whatever the set communications are for her, only then will it send her an email that's relevant. Now, the key to this whole thing is to not make it feel like it's the same email that everybody else is getting. That's why we use plain text-based emails, right? We know how to send fancy HTML things, but we don't want it to feel that way. We actually look into AMS 360, see who the exec is or the rep is, that the primary contact person for that client, and send the email as if that person typed it up that morning after finding this article in the course of their work, right? And it even can use your same signature line and all that kind of good stuff. So think about this like tending to your garden, right? In the fall months, you're not reaping the harvest of picking the tomatoes and things like that, right? What you're doing is you're preparing your beds and you're doing all the things necessary, you're putting your cover crops. This is kind of like that, right? You're setting up the sales opportunities for later by educating them on topics that might be important. So educate them on cyber, educate them on flood, educate them on the other things during these times of months. And it either might spark an interest at that moment, or when you do ask them if they want to bundle that coverages around renewal, they'll already be educated on why that is important. So this is that giving back to the relationship rather than constantly trying to extract from the relationship approach that is yielding some of those success story results that I was showing you here. It's the combined effort of both of those things working hand in hand. So
speaking of the giving mentality, I love this time of year to try to make it special, have this special connection. The obvious discussion point here is sending the greeting cards, whether that be for Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's or Hanukkah or all of the above. So the greeting cards is a great opportunity. There's a lot of built-in content that you can choose from, but I also really want to encourage people to think about customizing their own and keeping with their brand, their image, their own messaging. I love the pumpkin pie recipe idea. We helped a client recently include, a photo of their agency's mascot and his pet. But there's other things that you can do in addition to the greeting cards. And included in the greeting cards, you can include gift cards to some of your VIP contacts, your contacts that send you guys a lot of referrals. And then in addition to the cards, you can do things like gift baskets. We always partner with a local candy shop to send candy gift baskets to some of our clients and partners. We do a newsletter periodically, and one of the ideas that we have coming up is we're actually going to do a print newsletter. My husband's job did it. They're not insurance, but I'm marketing, so I don't care. I love the idea, but they do kind of like a quarterly magazine to their clients. And I love that because that's something that you can do kind of year end to recap the year, especially if you're, really involved in the community. Sharing photos of that community involvement. If you have a lot of face time with your clients, people like to see their own faces, especially faces of people that they know. So that's another great opportunity to kind of get that connection and reinforce that relationship without necessarily focusing on the insurance products.
Yeah, for sure. I remember that we had in my previous life, I owned a real estate company, and we would always go around the Christmas season, and we would deliver like holiday hams and like to like the title companies and to the realtors we worked with and all these things. Me and my old partner did that, and that was always, people loved it, right? And in this case,
Yep.
so we already talked about having like a VIP list, right? One of the other things
Mm-hmm.
that you can be building and that you should be building is referrals list, right? So inside of AMS 360, there are profile questions, and you can set up these profile questions that say referred by. And anytime you get a referral in 2025, I want you to answer that question by putting the name of the referral source in there. So if Matthew Smith made the referral, referred by Matthew Smith. If it was a realtor, Cheryl Holtz made it, put Cheryl Holtz in there as the referral source. The end of the year, you will have built an entire list of who your referrals were that year. And then at the end of the year, that's when we can do things like you're talking about, do something special, because people who referred in the past will refer again if you give them another experience that you keep staying top of mind and keep giving them reasons to refer. You don't have to ask, just keep giving good experiences. But you need to know who those people are so you can target them with these end of the year touch points, right? Now, some of the fun things that we've seen, I had one woman who we work with. She actually at the end of the year hosts an appraisal party. So what she does is she has champagne and different types of crudité and whatever kind of charcuterie boards, and she'll invite in a professional appraiser that comes in, and then people can bring in their valuables like an art and jewelry and things like that, and while they're having all the food and drink, they'll get appraisals done on things. Now that also allows them to spot other different things, but it's giving a free service that's benefiting them and creating a sense of a community with people that they know love to refer them. So it's also creating synergy in those moments where these multiple referral sources are getting together and all sharing positive experiences, right? Some of the other things that I see happening is, so you mentioned these gift cards. So inside of the cards here, you'll see that they have these potential gift cards that you can put in here. And this gift card works at, it's called a Tango card. It works at all the different providers here, so clients can use it anywhere. But the other cool thing that you can do with these is that you can actually put in this cover art area here, you can put like a QR code in there. Now, a QR code is really handy because you can use them for drawings. So let's say that you wanted to have an end of the year drawing for your referral sources or all your promoters that were on an NPS survey that gave you a 9 or a 10. You wanted to give away like a big screen TV or something like that. You could send like a QR code in that card where they could register for a drawing. I actually had a guy, he does a local barbecues, like a cookouts in his area where he invites the community and he makes burgers and brats and stuff like that. But he has a little sign where people can register for a drawing at the live events, and it's a QR code. And that QR code is hooked up to a form on his website, so that people can just fill out the form at the barbecue by scanning the QR code. When he gets back to the office, they all get added to a journey. Right. So he's got all the drawing, and he's got a whole bunch of prospects from the local community right in there. So think a little creatively. The pumpkin pie was one way to do it. Sending out a holiday card with a drawing opportunity in it's another. The appraisal party. There's all kinds of fun things that you can do if you put a little creativity to it. But at the end of the day, we're just creating more experiences, positive experiences for people that love you that will lead to more organic referrals next year.
And speaking of next year, one of the things that I think is really important to spend time doing this time of year is to be intentional about what your communication strategy is going to be and how it's going to support building that really good customer experience or that experience that attracts new customers. So I just shared a little bit of kind of what we've done to help agencies um, visualize what that experience should be or how they're going to be tracking it. So we use Canva a lot. It's very user friendly. It's gaining in popularity. There's a free version. But if you're a visual person, you can use their virtual whiteboard to kind of map out what you want that experience to be. And then you can go back and replicate that in tools like Vertipore Client Communication or in ClientCircle's Journeys. Now that you kind of have a plan of what you want to, who you want to talk to and how often you want to talk to them and what you want to talk to them about. And I like the virtual whiteboard aspect because you can collaborate with coworkers on, okay, well, when should we send this message or when should we suggest this? And you can start with something as simple as, new client onboarding. There's so much information that you want new clients to absorb. And it's almost impossible to get them to download all of that in their brain and digest it and be able to know, how do I go get a certificate? Where do I get my cards from? How am I going to pay my bill? Who's my go-to person? What if I have a claim? So you can kind of spill out, well, here's our payment link, and you can time it around the time that their first payment will be due. If you're using tools like Glovebox, you can send them tutorials on how to download the app and use it. So all that you can build into a journey or into a client onboarding experience, but you have to sit down and think about what does that experience look like for your agency and how are you going to map it out? And tools like Canva or other virtual whiteboards, those are great, beginner level tools that allow you to kind of just start with a blank slate, just like you would do if you had a real whiteboard in front of you. And then for planning like other campaigns and initiatives and tasks, we have a small team for our marketing team internally. And we use tools like SharePoint to kind of map out like what are our initiatives going to be? When are we going to plan this? When are we going to implement this? Who's going to be involved? What are going to be the touch points? Who's going to be the champion for this? So SharePoint, many of you guys are using Office 365. SharePoint is included in that, and there's tons of functionality in there to help you organize your plans and your people and make sure that you're going to meet your agency goals and create those great customer experiences next year. So those are kind of the two tools that I thought were really important to share when you're thinking about planning that strategy for 2025.
Yeah. And to your point, like inside of client communications or ClientCircle, you'll see over here that there's these one-time communications. So instead of having to use a Constant Contact or a MailChimp or something like that to send out those emails quarterly or seasonally, you can come in here and send them out directly through ClientCircle. So any of those custom audiences, those marketing lists that I showed you to, you can send out a one-time communication, and you can even schedule it for ahead of time during the year. So whether that's like an annual election period or an update on rates or like spring cleaning tips and things like that, you can do all of those. And for you all who are on Vertipore Client Communications and you're hearing about Journeys and you're wondering about that, you can get Journeys inside of Vertipore Client Communications. It's part of what we call our premium bundle. Our premium bundle it's $180 a month, and there's no commitment to it. And it includes Journeys, it includes forms, it includes 20 handwritten cards a month, it includes support with our team, so they'll help you answer questions and set up questions and customize things and things like that, and also Google reviews and stuff. So if you don't have that but you want to, all you got to do is go to the settings and upgrade your plan and add the premium bundle, and you'll get access to all of that stuff. So looks like, here we go.
Oh, yeah, how we can help. So, of course, most of this conversation has been about how you can use ClientCircle to improve that customer experience. just for me personally and my team with Angela Adams Consulting, we have launched this year our virtual marketing services. And what we do is we work with our clients. We don't sell any particular software. We work on behalf of your agency, and we really want to understand, your brand, your audience, what's your mission, what are your goals, and then we help align promotional strategies around what your goals are. So it's not just a one-time thing. We really want to be invested in what are your goals and who's your audience and who's your ideal client. Like, who do you want to get more of? And then we align, do you have a website that's funneling in the right type of audience and the right type of leads? Do you have tools that are funneling those leads and getting the information you need to do quoting? So we cover everything from the targeting and the identifying of who those ideal clients are to the tech stack that you use to talk to those people, to get the information that you need to measure, to retain, and then to what exactly is the messaging going to be? Where are we going to get the information from? How are we going to craft it in a way that speaks to your agency? So again, embracing that every agency is unique, your agency is unique as well, and we want to make sure that your message is going out the way you would have written it. So I think ClientCircle is a great tool to weave into your tech stack and to be using as part of your marketing strategy, because it does allow for that individualism. It does already integrate so well with your management system. So there's very little, uptime in getting everything up and running. And it is very, very user friendly. And one of the things that we do is we help clients implement and use tools like ClientCircle.
Yeah, it's kind of, you always see these commercials out there for like Peloton, right? And it's like such a great tool and it's a great piece of equipment. But man, when you combine that with the right personal trainer who gets you motivated and pumped up every morning and makes sure you show up and you start to see the results, you got more energy and you got more, your clothes fit better and all that stuff, man, that combination can be really powerful. And I can attest from having talked with Tracy, like, you ask great questions. That's one of my favorite things, is that you always ask really great questions. You get to the bottom of the issue and then have great follow-up and execution. So I think we're getting to the end of the time here. So if there's anybody who's got any questions that we can answer with our last kind of couple minutes that we have here, happy to drill down or give some more particulars on anything. Feel free to drop a question down in the chat. And now is the time for it. Or if you have any great ideas of things that your agency is doing that you wanted to kind of just share with the rest of the group, we're here to learn as well. But either way, we really appreciate you all squeezing some time in today. If you do have any questions, feel free to schedule a time there using the button that just popped up. I'm happy to answer any questions offline as well. And you can always shoot me an email to Matthew@clientcircle.com. Alrighty. Well, if there's no questions, Tracy, thanks so much for hopping on. It's been a pleasure to chat with you today. And thanks everybody who attended for joining us.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
All right.